All right, let's get this show started. Ral, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Let me share my screen. All right, there's the link to the community update 157. Welcome, everyone. So there's nothing new or different with the mainnet. Everything, the status remains the same as last week. And we are making good progress on block merge. The PRs are already in. There was quite a bit of work done in two different branches, the dev branch on the one hand and the block merge branch on the other. And now we're in the process of combining the two. And because of the significant amount of work done on each of those branches, there is a bit of conflict resolution that needs to be done. Will is working on that. And then NotZipper is completing the parts of the block merge with the caches and indexes or indices necessary for block merge to happen. So he's continuing with that piece. So this should all come together in the near future. So that's where we are. And then once all of that is done, we'll do some testing. I mean, there are already some tests written and done so far. But after the merges, we'll do more testing and then move things forward on block merge, at least the first version of block merge, and then we'll go from there. Like I said earlier, it'll be done in some small releases, but now it looks like it'll be relatively fewer releases. I think we're able to catch quite a bit of that in this release, but there will certainly be changes that we contemplate for future that need to be done in other releases of block merge. On the SRE, Gurinder is looking into the slow degradation issue on the mainnet, but that actually seems to have improved in the last week or so. Also, we're looking at maybe migration to the OpenJDK 15 version. It's available now as general availability. Seems like it resolves some of the JVM vulnerability issues and has a much better garbage collection and things like that. So we're going to do that. Also, it sets us up for the OpenJDK 17, which I think is supposed to be an LTS version. So that's something that we'll be doing, moving from OpenJDK 11 to 15 over the next several days or a couple of weeks. In the same SRE domain, I have recently started using snick.io or sneak.io, whichever way you're supposed to pronounce that. So that is sort of a security and vulnerability monitoring tool that claims to look deeper in the dependencies, like dependencies of dependencies, to see if anything would be a security vulnerability. And I've been running that on the RChain repositories, and some of you may have seen the PRs from that were generated by Sneak that I have committed to some other repositories, both in the RChain community, mostly in the RChain community, RCAT, those kinds of repositories. It didn't find much objectionable in the RChain probably because we've been spending this time on the dependency updates over the last several weeks. So we believe we're getting close to, if not already there, in terms of being able to switch to Scala 213, though we have not, as of now, tested Scala 213 yet. But I think we're getting close to that in terms of getting all the dependencies updated to be able to work with 213. So that's where we are with that. Additionally, I'm beginning to look along with Gurinder at application performance monitoring tools with the AI ops genre of tools. It seems like there's a little bit more available to us rather than having to struggle with all this performance monitoring and putting the spans and all of that too much on our own. But it may be all hype, and it may be maybe we're believing the hype too much, but that's why we're beginning to evaluate those tools to see if they buy us anything, perhaps a different angle, or perhaps a deeper look at the logs to identify the correlations and things like that, that would take a lot of time for either the developers or Gurinder or somebody to do that. We're trying to see what these tools can help us with, and some of them, I think a couple of them have a free offer for open source software. So we'll start with those, and then in any case do a degree of comparison to see if they can give us any more intelligence and help us identify performance bottlenecks sooner and quicker with less effort than it would take us if we were to do it all manually. But having said that, we still have the task to improve our monitoring tools, ongoing monitoring tools, as a separate thing that we'll get to after the block merge. So that's where we are with that SRE, CI, CD, continuous integration, continuous deployment aspect of things. One other thing that I wanted to let the community to know about is, and I put a couple of comments in the development channel and I think in the wallets channel. There are a couple of hard forks we will be doing after the block merge. So this has obviously implications for anybody developing things on the net, on the main net. So the first fork is to clear the slashed validator that we have, update the bonds file, and carry over the balances from the current mainnet to the new fork. That's one fork. And we're kind of looking at it as a practice or trial run. We don't want to put or overload this with any other changes and functionality, so that we can say, okay, well, this is the simplest hard fork we can do and see how that goes, resolve any issues, resolve the process of going through a hard fork. And then the second fork would actually correct some of the bugs and other configuration items. So I want to just quickly give you a view of that. In here, there is an issue in GitHub that speaks to what kinds of things we're trying to change here. So for example, one of the things we want to change is the quarantine length. Currently is a little bit too long. And then there is the rewards bugs in some situations. The rewards calculation ends up being negative, which does not make sense. So there's all of these issues, and this list of issues, I don't know if is everybody able to see this okay, or do I need to increase the size? Okay, maybe that's better. So these are some of the issues that we'll be handling in the second hard fork. And this list is probably not complete. We'll discover things as we begin to look at this after block merge, what that looks like. Now, this has Rolang 1.1 listed here as one of the updates we will do, but most likely that will be either one or two separate events, separate from the hard fork piece here, because Rolang 1.1 generally is not a hard fork, it's more like a soft fork. And it has the system contracts update piece, and then enabling basically everybody to be able to write contracts in 1.1. So that's probably a whole separate effort from this, but we just listed that here for now. The other thing that's not listed here, but is listed as a separate item, is the the flow price, because currently, and that's just a configuration issue. We need to, but the wallets will be impacted by that because I think they're defaulting to the value of 1 at this point in time. So we may need to change that to we may need to change that to have a minimum flow price that would enable at least some recovery of the hardware costs with the validators. So that's basically it has to become a parameter that we could then change based on the economics so that it works for everybody, for the people that are running the transactions and for the people that are running the validator nodes and all that. So that's another piece that will be looked at as part of that. So as an element of all of this, forking, the forking already obviously has implications for data migration, especially for the applications that are data intensive like DAPI. So there is a conversation that needs to begin and a spec that needs to be developed for the data migration methodology. I believe there was some conversation about that back in Poland, but was inconclusive. So we need to revisit what were the concerns and issues and approaches discussed at that time, and then build forward on that to enable data migration on an ongoing basis as we fork. So hopefully at least we can get a version 01 of that methodology for data migration at some point in the near future. And all those discussions, both the hard fork changes as well as the data migration methodologies, will be discussed as part of the tech governance RChip process. So I request the community to engage with all of that, so we have the best thinking on how to, especially the dApp developers, to engage with that. So we have the best thinking on that as to how to make that happen. Speaking of tech governance, tomorrow there is that the governance meetings, both tech governance and regular governance, overlap, the schedule overlaps with the European R&D workshop that Greg and the dev team and a bunch of people are participating in with the process algebra folks in Europe. So we will not be doing that tomorrow. We'll all be participating in the R&D workshop. So there will be no tech governance meeting tomorrow. So that, I think, is most of what I wanted to say. Are there any questions or comments from anyone about anything I said? All right, over to you, Greg.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Rao. So I just want to reiterate what Rao said. There will be 2 hard forks. The first one is kind of a practice one to make sure that we have plenty of experience when we do the more serious one. The first one the entire aim will be to get rid of the slash node from the bonded validator set. Now, going forward, that will be fixed in a different way, but for now, we're simplifying everything down to this one event, so that we get plenty of experience with starting doing a hard fork, and then post that there will be another hard fork, pretty much right on the heels of that, where we clean up some bugs that we know are in the POS and some other backlog items. So the main target that we're trying to get for is the second hard fork, but we want to do this in stages so that things are managed carefully. So again, does anyone here have any questions about that?
How soon do you think you would be doing that?
The first hard fork is going to happen right on the heels of block merge rolling out to the mainnet. So it's going to be at least, you know, a couple of weeks at a minimum. We will make sure that we have a list of all balances, and we will give people a good amount of time to review and make sure that we do have the balances correct, that no one feels left out or anything. That will be up for a period of time for review, and after the review is closed, we will then do the hard fork, and we'll do a similar kind of process when we do the real one as opposed to the practice one.
And will we have to be concerned about migrating any data that we have on there now?
You don't know if you're storing smart contracts, they won't be recovered. If you're storing files, they won't be recovered. But if you're storing Rev, that will be preserved.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll get get a lot better about preservation of the state as we go on. But this is we have to do it this way just to simplify things, and it's better to get it done before there's any serious data on chain. All right, any questions about that? Okay, moving on. I want to mention that Raphael has done some really nice upgrades to the RChain website. Ian, are you at a place where you can show off some of the changes?
I'm not at the moment.
Okay, all right, no worries.
But anyone can just navigate to RChain Co-op and display it.
I can
Cool.
show it quickly.
Oh, great.
So yeah, a few weeks ago, is it okay? Do you see the screen?
Yeah, we do.
So a few weeks ago, we had this big update of the website, and now we are improving some SEO related stuff. And okay, so we dropped the hackathon page that contained lots of things, and so now it's kind of replaced by this get started page. So this is a straightforward guide to set up a node as a developer. So yes, we think it's cool to have this because it shows that the software is ready to be used, and this is kind of missing. This was missing. That's my opinion, but yes, some users could not find a simple guide to set up a local node with one public key. So now we have this tutorial, and for non-technical users, it shows that the software is ready to be used. So this is the main thing, and then we are working on adding an extended timeline on the homepage. So we will have more details about those steps. So this is all work in progress.
Very good. Thank you very much. Any questions for Raphael? Okay. So then the other thing, we have a fairly significant meeting with a lot of high-profile academics. So we'll have folks from Edinburgh, from Lisbon, from Imperial, and other teams who will be there to learn about RChain, and we hope to to get them involved in some of the more interesting technical challenges that we face going forward. An example of the kind of problem that is a long-term problem, but and very interesting scientifically, mathematically, but that we don't have to solve immediately, is being able to eliminate replay altogether. So the way the chain works currently, when a deploy comes to a validator, the validator runs it, but then all the other validators need to replay and make sure that the validator who ran the code wasn't cheating. So there's a requirement to replay to ensure that the state transition is verified. It should be possible to not have to run replay. I have some ideas as to how one might go about that. It should be at least theoretically possible to apply ZK snarks to the problem. However, for each of these solutions, the hurdle is that the solution be checkable in less time than it would take to do replay. So one of the nice things about replay is that a lot of replay can be done in parallel. But if we switch to some other method of verification, if the verification takes longer than just to do the replay, it's not a win. So that's kind of an interesting technical challenge. And there are some promising directions, as I've mentioned, and it would be great to have, someone who is interested in these kinds of technical challenges with a track record, or some grad student who's very promising, take that problem on and see what they can do with it. So this is the kind of thing that we're one of the things that we're hoping to get out of the engagement, but there are of course others. We are hoping that we might come into contact with a different community, a larger community of folks who might be interested in becoming developers or work with the development team on RChain. So that's another aspiration for the meeting. Any questions or comments about the upcoming meeting that is tomorrow? Okay. Moving on, the board had its second official RChain board meeting of 2021 on Tuesday, and as far as I know, it was entirely informational. So we're largely just getting people up to speed on recent developments. And there were no decisions made, so no minutes need to be posted relating to any sort of decisions. It was entirely an informational discussion. Any questions about any of that? Okay, well, let me turn it over to Darryl for the community in review.
Thank you, Greg. So here's the community in review for January 28th to today, February the 3rd. Last Thursday at the DApp Developer Working Group, they reviewed issue creation for voting DApp. On Friday at the Climate and Coordination RCast, we discussed Biden's 30 by 30 plan to conserve 30% of land and oceans by 2030. And the open letter from 100 world leaders, including Jeff Bezos and CEO of Ford and others, to President Joe Biden to say that fighting climate change means job creation. This led to talking about decarbonization as the driver for the fourth industrial revolution. We also discussed an article in Wired entitled, "Get Ready for the Death of the Global Internet. It Won't Be Pretty." And if you want to check out, that's at blog.rchain.coop. On Monday, the Casper stand-up. This week's Casper stand-up covered a range of topics, including the application of non-standard analysis to an evaluation method for real number computation. And on Tuesday, in the communications working group, we discussed Jesse Couch's mainnet birthday party proposal, which will be on February 26th. The process required before we can officially announce block merge. We discussed with Raphael the technical roadmap timeline and putting the timeline on the front page of the RChain co-op. And this morning in the RChain active member hangout, I tuned in late. Apparently Jim was on another call, but when I tuned in, Gary asked if anyone played with Jukebox Yuri's Fission file storage web app thingy, and Theo said he's working on employing it in some way. And then Raphael demonstrated something in Dappy that I didn't understand. I don't know. I don't know if Raphael, you want to talk about that, but anyways, yeah.
I don't even. What was it?
I don't remember.
Okay. So yes, I guess that's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, that's it for the week in review.
Thank you very much. That was great. I think that's all we've got. Any questions or comments from the community? Things that need to be addressed? All right. Well, thanks to all. Please, everyone, stay safe, and looking forward to seeing many of you on the Friday call. Ciao for now.